Good morning, fellow Ambazonians. Today, na Saturday, number 16 day for this month of April 2022. My name na Capo Daniel, the Deputy Defense Chief of the Ambazonian Governing Council and the Anti-Kidnapping Czar, aka Sense Pass King. Today, we want focus on Agbor Balla and for expose who exactly Agbor Balla be for our people them and for the international community. This one it come following Agbor Balla a reaction for our criticism for a participation for a meeting where it take place for inside Switzerland for Geneva, where it be organized by an NGO where they call them say Swiss Peace. The meeting where it be supposed to be a very private and sacred meeting, it be take place for inside Geneva from the 4th of this month of April to the 8th of this month of April. Amongst the people then where they be bring the meeting participate for day na Agbor Balla, obviously, and representative for the Presbyterian Church and the Baptist Church with one other NGO where they call and say SNOC. This organization, Swiss Peace, na an institute where they do research and then it also help for make peace. It is like the HD for Switzerland as well. This new NGO, if we hold this meeting with this individual them for compile a proposition for a way forward and for advise the international system, including the Europeans and the Americans, on the way forward for the Ambazonian War of Liberation. According to information and transcript, we were intel that they bring them from that meeting, Agbor Balla, it misrepresent our population and their aspiration as a one where the people then want na a federal system and the one they go accept a decentralization and a compromise away from our aspiration for independence. Following this intel, the Ambazonian Governing Council, as a vanguard for the liberation of our people and for the aspiration of our people where they not express and for be that of independence and separation from Cameroon, then react by criticizing Agbor Balla in misrepresentation and reiterating the express will of our people for one independence and independence as expressed in many poll and independent research work like that of the AGC of Kadinatumi, where it proves say 96% of our people they want independence. They began demonstrate them in public in 2018, where all people they be march for embrace Ambazonian nationalism, for sing our national anthem, and for demand say make we cease political participation with La Republique to Cameroon. After we defend the position of our people and put forth, so we expect anybody where they want represent our people them for represent these facts, Agbor Balla responded not by justifying itself for the criticism we wouldn't put them forth, say misrepresent our people, their aspiration, but he went ahead for go for Twitter. He accused Dr. Cho Lucas Ayaba, who lead the Ambazonian Governing Council and is the Commander-in-Chief of the Ambazonian Defense Forces, of inciting the killing of our own people and promoting criminal activity. This one, it shows say Agbor Balla, it consider self-defense and advocacy for our right of self-determination for independence. We na the job and the thing way Dr. Cho Lucas Ayaba and the Ambazonia Governing Council they do it consider such activities as criminal in nature, the same language used by La Republique to Cameroon, who consider advocating for self-determination as terrorism, an act of subvention of state authority and incitement of violence. This it then expose and show the real hand of Felix Agbor Balla. In a private text messages on WhatsApp, Agbor Balla also contacted me, Capo Daniel, an official of the Ambazonian Governing Council, who put out the initial criticism of the presentation of Agbor Balla with a caution to him to stop misrepresenting our people. Agbor Balla make accusation on the private WhatsApp message accusing me of hijacking the struggle, a legitimate struggle, and the commission of war crime. I approached Agbor Balla to ask him to substantiate such allegation or cite examples so that we can follow up on those behavior which he have described. Barrister Felix Agbor Balla disappeared and end up with insult on WhatsApp. There are two things where Agbor Balla didn't raise them. One, he consider the idea of self-determination as a hijack of which we call a legitimate struggle, where we go expect for mean say if it talk now the demand for the lawyers and the teachers where if it done champion them once for create the consortium. Number two, the actions of self-defense against Cameroon military occupation and the proportionate targeting of enablers and collaborators in exerting our sovereignty as traitors to the Ambazonian people as that of acts of criminality. To these allegations, we want to assure our people, say the struggle for Ambazonian self-determination, it done go on for more than 50 years. The agenda of the lawyers and teachers protest that was headed before Agbor Balla hijacked it by Harmony Bogba had clearly stated federation and outright independence as their objective when submitting their documents to the President of the Republic of Cameroon, Mr. Paul Biya. So the claim where Agbor Balla make them say the independentists, where they champion the cause for the people them, they hijack a struggle, it be false, not just the narrative of the enemy. Regarding the activities of targeting of La République du Cameroun, their military personnel, it is acceptable as the presence of La République du Cameroun within Ambazonia have no legitimacy. It is an act of state aggression, and in a situation where the Cameroon government have reacted with disproportionate use of force and the declaration of war, the Ambazonian people are within their right to invoke their right of self-defense that will use lethal force to confront the Cameroon military. The actions of our forces, it be legitimate, it be right, and it be justified. Sound minds like that of Cardinal Tumi, people like Honorable Weber, the international community have indeed recognized our actions as being that of self-defense in nature, and the declaration and reiteration of our independence give us the right to assert our sovereignty. United Kingdom parliamentarians such as Lord Bolton have also on the floor of the UK Parliament declared that the people of the southern Cameroon, who now call themselves Ambazonians, do have the right to exert their sovereign power over their territory, also citing the fact that there is no union treaty or formal union between both Cameroons. The Green Tree Accord between the Cameroon government and the Nigerian government have clearly demonstrated the lack of any legal union between both Cameroons, so we are within our right to fight using arms to defend Ambazonia and to liberate it from Cameroon recolonization. Now, back to Felix Agbor Balla. Felix Agbor Balla, he run an NGO called the Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Africa. This organization, it be been as some organization before, where we start for 2005, where they be the column saying Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Africa. Agbor Balla we done study for Sierra Leone, and he gave friend the way they for America. After he be come out for prison for La République, he be sign a document through a lawyer, Muna, where he be promised say he no go participate for any advocacy for independence, and he go always support the agenda of one Cameroon. This document it be made public as an engagement we get with Cameroon government before he released. Shortly after he released, he convinced a colleague them for change that organization into the Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Africa. Name himself the founder, and he used this organization for misrepresent the aspiration of our people, and he use them like a racketeering for make money for himself. Way the organization it do, it state obvious facts as a means for gain legitimacy and for then promote false solutions them based on his own agenda or support one Cameroon. I go explain and give the detail of the criminal and racketeering activity exploiting human rights by Felix Agbor Balla, where he received financial support for such activities from the British High Commissioner for Yaoundé, for another NGOs where he partner with them also, AMEF, Authentic Memorial Empowerment Foundation Finder Group Initiative, and also some organization for Canada, where it be based for Montreal, Raoul Wallenberg Center for Human Rights, where they use them also for gate fundings. Most of those money they earn for personal use. I will start by explaining how this racketeering it work. The job for human rights organization, as Agbor Balla it represent them, in be mainly now for document human rights violation, and then for the purpose for promoting human rights improvement in Africa. But Agbor Balla, when he collect this data, the part for improvement, the proposition where it propose them for the international community, it go the direct opposite for solve the root causes for this problem, but it go for help and push the Cameroon agenda for one Cameroon. I go explain, and I go also point out the Cameroon military attaché, where it been at the head for Agbor Balla, a human rights organization for Bamenda, and will also provide evidence for the activity within the international community for push the Cameroon agenda through Agbor Balla, a NGO. Before I start, one for wonder. Say wait Agbor Balla it do am for negotiation on behalf of the people of Ambazonia, if he indeed it represent now an NGO where he job now for document human rights violation. If Agbor Balla it dey for inside CDN, it dey for inside Swiss deal, it dey for all places negotiation about our country it dey. Why organizations such as Aya Poor Foundation, Human Rights Watch, and all other reputable international human rights organizations, them need to fight for those particular organizations. Agbor Balla is there for like an embedded agent for back and speak for one Cameroon agenda, and for mislead and misguide the international community their response for legitimate human rights violation against our people by the state of Cameroon and Mr. Paul Biya's regime. Agbor Balla then finally show his hand by exposing himself for make accusation of the leader of our liberation, Dr. Cho Lucas Ayaba, and myself, the Deputy Defense Chief of the Ambazonian Governing Council and a top attaché to the cabinet of the Ambazonian Governing Council, by making unfounded, unsubstantiated allegation to us and threatening to blackmail us by fabricating facts on the ground. Any credible organization where it did do a fair job on the ground will not make such allegation. It shows say the job for Agbor Balla, as we done see I'm already for the field, it will be enough to implicate the ADF and their top officials as a means for decapitate the Ambazonian resistance and liberation war in favor of a settled solutions that will end with our people ending up as second-class citizens and continue the subjugation system within La République du Cameroon. We know say Agbor Balla, he need to speak on behalf of the federalist. He represent himself as somebody where he come representing an NGO. We know say he need to talk for any constituent, but somehow they lobby for be in the middle of anything we concern negotiation and dialogue for the war between Ambazonia and La République. This is what we know. Agbor Balla have signed a document to guarantee his freedom and his release and his partnership with Cameroon, with an understanding that was worked out by his legal representative, Barrister Muna. This document will be made public, where he carry the signature of Felix Agbor Balla and Fontem Niba as an engagement and understanding for their release. Their activity and public declaration, it then reflect those terms them for their release from prison from La République to Cameroon. We know say Agbor Balla, he did misrepresent himself. He represent himself for Canada, their parliament, as the president of the consortium, even when they began saggy from that position. From way we know from his submission them, he did try for hijack the narrative on what is happening on the ground by stating obvious facts that have been documented by other renowned and credible human rights organizations like Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, on the atrocities committed by the Republic of Cameroon on our territory, and then hijack it by putting in place proposition that will actually undermine the aspiration of our people and the real resolving of this problem by tackling the root causes of the problem, which is what the Cameroon government wants. The Cameroon government do not want to address the root causes of this problem, and they are using Agbor Balla to divert and misguide the international community away from sustainable solution to our crisis. This deal works for both ways for Felix Agbor Balla. On one hand, Agbor Balla is seen as championing the recording and documentation of human rights violation and monitoring such events on ground zero, which he then used as a means to racketeer foreign and international bodies for funds that he used to enrich himself, and allowed his organization to be used by the Cameroon intelligence service to misguide the international community. This type of racketeering is not new. We saw the same thing in the 90s with the coming of multipartism in the Cameroons, where many individuals such as Agbor Balla knew how the system worked, and they created political parties for the main purpose of making themselves available to be bought by Mr. Pobia to use to suppress real political changes in the country, as was championed at that time initially by the SDF. It is a well-known practice of human rights racketeering that many elites of the likes like Agbor Balla have been opening NGO for the sole purpose not to fight for human rights or to help our poor people, but to exploit the international community for funds that they use for their private use and to enrich themselves. We have hundreds of people opening NGOs on ground zero, elites like Agbor Balla, who have become master of the colonial system to exploit the international community, lie to them, and make huge sum of money. It has become a lucrative business. Even in the Ambazonian community in the diaspora, there have been members of the SCNC who have been doing political asylum racketeering, opening bases and representative of SCNC centers in the diaspora, not to assist the work of self-determination, but to use to exploit Ambazonian asylum seekers for huge sum of money for their private pockets in the name of giving justification for the asylum claims. This is similar situation with Agbor Balla, racketeering the international community and the British High Commissioner in Yaoundé to make money, while at the same time making himself available for La République du Cameroon, who had facilitated his job as a lecturer in the University of Buea after he was released from Kondengi prison. This is what they are doing. We know for fact, and we have been monitoring the WhatsApp group and forums that have been created in ground zero by the United Nations organization called UCHA. UCHA, now it stands for the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. Now the body where the United Nations General Assembly, it be created for 1991 for the main purpose for strengthening international response to complex and emergencies where they go around the world. So their main job now for coordinate a global emergency response. So their activity, they bring together all NGOs them for be able for gather facts, and now them where all the nations for UN, they rely on their information for make decisions and also for guide the decisions for help crisis them. So Agbor Balla, the organization, then they represent La République and for help for divert and for disorient the international community and for push them away from the solution way our people then want them. We know for sure, say the head for Agbor Balla, a organization for the Savannah State, na a Cameroon intelligence officer, where it disguised like a humanitarian worker, and it work for the Cameroon government. It work closely with Eli Smith and the Cameroon military attaché Kunyam Titus. He, in particular, it be the first person to get all information together with Kunyam Titus, when the military attaché for La République. At the same time, simultaneously, they share the same chat groups. They monitor and coordinate Cameroon, their propaganda, and get direct access to Cameroon field officers. Now they get the first images for atrocity, for killing of Ambazonian fighters them. When the Cameroon military, their task force, then carry out those operations, they send these images directly to Yi, and for Kunyam Titus, they always post this information for the so-called Northwest Humanitarian Forum created by OCHA, United Nations body for OCHA. Now, he always be the first for publish and for day, and then Kunyam titles, they be the first for publish them for their other propaganda social media platform. They make the case for the Cameroon government, for show Cameroon government their victory, and then get direct access for Ambazonian fighters them for almost all camps. From their communications with those camps, we know say Agbor Balla, he coordinator for Bamenda in particular, he then be caught for direct Ambazonian fighters and for carry atrocious activities, for implicate Ambazonian governing council, and for implicate the entire Ambazonian movement. They always provide this information for the international community, for their forums, for help, for guide, and mislead United Nations partners and for ground, so that they report with the OCHA, go to get them, and it go to submit them for the United Nations and the international community. It go be faulty, and it go to reflect which way the Cameroon government want me to get them. So we know for sure, say Agbor Balla, he did work for La République du Cameroon. The organization na a front for La République du Cameroon. He did do as a racketeering for benefit personally. For Agbor Balla, his activity, it will be the only one way be the oppose the coalition for Ambazonian lawyers as the president of the FACO Lawyers Association when they want to create the Common Law Bar Association. The Ambazonian lawyers they be vote overwhelmingly for create a Common Law Bar Association away from the Cameroon Bar Association. This decision it will be fought against by Agbor Balla on behalf of La République du Cameroon, and he used FACO Lawyers Association for try for overturn decisions made unanimously by all lawyers and successfully for undermine the campaign for independence as proposed by the first memorandums and way they be sent by the lawyers to Mr. Pobia demanding federation or outright separation for our territory. We take this opportunity for inform the British Council of this activity, say Agbor Balla an embedded agent, for inform the American Embassy, for inform the Montreal-based human rights organization, Raoul Wallenberg Center for Humanitarian for Human Rights. They will be communicated to understand that Agbor Balla cannot be seen or misrepresent himself as somebody speaking of any constituency on the ground or being a stakeholder. He is not a party to the conflict, and he should stay away from any negotiation platform that concerns this struggle as a matter of him being a compromised person, somebody who have an understanding with the Cameroon government, somebody who is working with the Cameroon intelligence services, somebody who have been misleading the international community and NGOs, and his organization should be kicked out of the United Nations OCHA on the ground. We will not subsequently facilitate access to people who represent Agbor Balla and his organization on the ground. They are not credible. They have made unfounded statements and accusations. They work for international human rights organization, as we expect in the Ambazonian Governing Council should meet up with international standard, which is what we expect for them to be able to monitor, report conflict-based human rights violation. The organization of Agbor Balla do not just report these conflict-based human rights violations. They use it to serve an agenda which he has expressed publicly now and privately, as we know. We also want our public to be aware of these facts, and they would have a better understanding of our posture as vanguards for their aspiration and their right for self-determination, for independence, and nothing other than that. God bless you all. Capo Daniel signing off. Happy Easter and Mubarak.